Have you ever wanted to throw knives in the back of every single enemy that you could come across? Have you ever wanted to be a ninja? Vault across an entire battlefield with nothing to stop you? Well, you've come to the right build. Today we are going over the Ninja Demon Hunter, utilizing the Shadow set and the brand new Holy Point shot with its awesome legendary power for a T13 Speedfarm build and guide. Right now, we'll start with a little bit of gameplay footage for you guys. I have some pre-recorded footage here of this build going through a T13 Rift. And this will allow you to see what the style is essentially for how you play the build. As you can see, it's very fast-paced. Impale is your only damage dealer, and you're just throwing it out there. You are hunting elites. That's mainly what we're after here with this build. And sometimes if you come across big packs of white trash mobs and things like that, you can go ahead and take them down too. But ideally, you're really just trying to find the elites, and then with the Chain of Shadows belt giving us essentially unlimited vault after each impale, then we're just zooming around the map looking for more elites. We have Nemesis bracers in the build so that when you hit a shrine or a pylon, you'll be producing more elites. And of course, this is also, as you can tell, a focus and restraint build. So we do have a generator in there, mainly just to proc focus and restraint. But the build does so much damage just on its own, and even with only one side, just the spender side of focus and restraint procced, that you don't even need to focus a ton of your time on making sure to have your generator out there. It's your sixth skill, and it's kind of your least used skill in a way. Like, it's nice if you throw it out and you get the extra bonus damage. But when you have a really good shadow set put together, and when everything's ancient augmented and decent Paragon, you like honestly might not even need to ever do your generator, and you'll just destroy all elites. So as you can see, this is a nice open map, a very good showcase of how this build works. This is also a Goldwrap based build, and we will get into the skills and the gear and everything like that in more detail, but just to give you an example of what you're seeing on screen, the reason that we are taking no damage at all is because we have a Goldwrap in the cube, and we also have a Avarice Band. So with the Avarice Band combining with the Boon of the Hoarder gem, which makes it so that when it's a max level gem, every enemy that you kill drops gold. Avarice Band makes it so that your pickup radius continues to increase as you pick up gold to a maximum of 20 yards. And then the Goldwrap makes it that every time you pick up gold, your defense goes up and up. So it turns all that gold into toughness for you. And you keep refreshing it as you keep picking up gold when you kill enemies. And you keep picking up gold as your pickup radius is just massive. So it's a nice little synergy there to make it that you have unlimited defense. So all you really need to worry about is just finding your targets to kill. And so, as you can see, we go around and the Rift Guardian pops up, and as soon as we find him amidst all these elites, we will kill him in about 1 to 2 shots, and he's dead. There you go. And it's just that quick. It's crazy. This is pretty much an average regular Rift, and you can just do this non-stop, no problem at all, and no concern for resources either. You can see that our hatred never really goes dry at all. So, without further ado, let's hop into the game here, and I'll show you the skills and the gear and everything that helps this build come together. Starting out with the skills, we have, like I mentioned, Bolas with Thunderball. This is your generator. It is a focus and restraint build. It doesn't really matter. There's also Bitter Pill that you can take for your generator. Thunderball just makes it so that when you cast your Bolas, you get some extra hatred regen, but like I mentioned, the build does such a good job of mitigating cost. You don't really care about your generator for one of the main reasons that we'll talk about in a second here. The main workhorse of the build is Impale, and we use the Ricochet rune, so it's a lightning based build, and Ricochet just makes it so that you get a little more AoE in the build. The knife ricochets to 2 additional nearby enemies within 20 yards of each other. Some people are saying there's potentially a cold-based version that you could go with, because there's a cold rune that lets your Impale pierce. I haven't really messed with that. I really like Ricochet, so that's the rune that I tend to go with. One of your best movement skills as a Demon Hunter, Volt with Rattling Roll. Because we have the unlimited vaults that we get after using the Impale with Chain of Shadows legendary power, you don't need to use like Tumble, which is one of the most popular runes for Volt. So you can go with Rattling Roll, which gives you a little bit of CC. You can stun some enemies when you roll into them. And this is a sort of melee ranged base build. You're kind of at range a little, but you mostly are right in the thick of things. So you will get a lot of stuns off when you roll into elites. And this actually makes it so that in other versions of the build, you can utilize a strong arm bracers and get that effect for you. Next up, Shadow Power, because of course it's the Shadows set. You gotta have your Shadow Power in there. You get Shadow Power, and I have it unruned because you actually get every rune of it with the 4-piece set bonus. So let me show you all the runes of Shadow Power. So ideally, normally it's just a skill that you can pick up. Costs 14 discipline to cast, so you just cast it at the start of your rift, and then it's always on after that. You draw in the Power of the Shadows, gaining 26,821 life per hit for 5 seconds, and life per hit is increased by 25% of your life per kill. So life per kill is kind of a useful secondary if you look for it on gear. I don't know if you want to super go out of your way for it, but if you're min-maxing everything, then ideally you would like some life per kill on your gear. And then the different runes you get Night Bane, slows the movement speed of enemies within 30 yards by 80% for 5 seconds, so there's a nice built-in slow. You have Blood Moon, which doubles the total amount of life per hit gained. Well of Darkness reduces the cost to 8 discipline. Gloom reduces your damage taken by 35%, so that's some really nice damage reduction. And then Shadow Glide, which is awesome for these speed farming builds. Gain 30% increased movement speed while Shadow Power is active. So this makes the Shadow set actually one of the fastest sets that the Demon Hunter can have, because built right into it is this additional movement speed, and this goes above the 25% movement speed cap that the game has for us. So Shadow Power, really strong, really awesome. Let's continue along with the skills. We have the Companion, Wolf Companion, just for those times where you want to get some more DPS out. There's potentially implications for using a different pet here, or maybe a different skill even, but I just go with the Wolf just to make sure we're getting some more damage into the build. And then Vengeance with Seethe, because we have the Goldwrap, like I mentioned, we have a ton of defense with gold, so go with Seethe. In this way you'll never ever run into any hatred problems at all. This keeps us topped off very nicely, and also combining with the Carly's Point, which will show you the legendary power on that, you never ever have hatred problems. It's great. And then for passives, I play hardcore, so I like to have awareness. There will be moments, definitely, when you either enter a rift for the first time, or you change zones, or you just get to like a dead end and you have to backtrack, or you might not have picked up gold in a while. And it's very easy to forget that you're no longer invincible, and so like some mob will hit you. And because we're going with the Goldwrap setup, you actually run kind of thin on defense, so you can easily get pretty ganked in T13. So awareness is nice just for those moments where, oh shit, everything falls apart and now you have a cheat death with you. So even on softcore I might recommend it as well too. And then we also have Blood Vengeance, which ties in nicely to the whole idea of staying topped off on resources. It might even be overkill. You could potentially go with a different skill here. But this just allows us to keep the hatred flowing in. So even if we do get very low on hatred for some odd reason, all the health globes that you're pulling in will translate to resource for you, and you'll be getting all those globes along with the orbs that the elites drop, because like I mentioned, the Avarice Band is working for you to increase your pickup radius. And then we also have Cull the Weak, because like I mentioned, not only does Shadow Power give you a slow, but we're also in melee range, and we're using a Bane of the Trapped. Again, more to come on the gear and the legendary gems. But you will have a slow on many enemies, so Cull the Weak works nicely for you. And then, of course, Tactical Advantage for some additional movement speed. So whenever you use Volt, Shadow Power, or Smokescreen, or Backflip with Evasive Fire, you gain 60% movement speed for 2 seconds. And because you're vaulting around the map a ton, this bonus is pretty much always going for you. So it's a really nice passive to have for speed farming. Now let's look at the gear. I'll start with the Shadow set just in general. So the 2-piece bonus for it is, while equipped with a melee weapon, your damage is increased by 1200%, and we're using a Carly's Point dagger, so that's a melee weapon for you. The 4-piece bonus is Shadow Power gains the effect of every rune and lasts forever, so like I mentioned, all you have to do is hit it at the beginning of your rift, and then you got it for the rest of the rift, and you get all those bonuses from all the different runes. And then the 6-piece set Impale deals an additional 40,000 weapon damage to the first enemy hit. And this is why it's such a sick Elite and Rift Guardian killer, because you just want to go in, pick your target, and you'll immediately destroy them. The first enemy that you hit is just taking ridiculous damage from your Impales. So pick your target, hit them down, they're going to be done. As you can tell from the different pieces of gear here, there's some gearing options that you have. This helm rolled really well. This is a Primal Shadows mask. For Primals, basically all you need to know is that they're Ancients that can essentially roll with perfect stats. So you have the 1000 Dexterity here. Then it came with 1000 Vitality. I rerolled that for a perfect 6% critical hit chance. And I even got the Impale damage there with 15%. So this is a really nice one. And then also had a Call the Sun's Despair thrown on there and a socket with a diamond in there for some cooldown reduction. As you can see, by the way, in the cube, we have the Dawn. So you're going to want to have some CDR in your build so that you can meet the requirements for having permanent uptime on Vengeance. With a Dawn in the cube, that puts you at 65% on that reduced cooldown for Vengeance. That means on the rest of your gear and with Paragon and stuff like that, you need 37% cooldown. So if you have a max diamond in your helm, and then you have 3 other slots where you have cooldown reduction. I like to get it on my shoulders here. So you have Dex, Vit, All Res, cooldown. And I also like to get it on my rings too. So here I have a critical hit damage, critical hit chance, cooldown reduction. And then critical hit damage, area damage, and then cooldown reduction on this restraint. That way I have my 3 sources of cooldown. And then I also have 10% in my Paragon. And then I have a diamond in the helm. That's giving me about, I believe, 38%. Yeah, 38% cooldown reduction, which puts me over that nice 37% cap that we're going for. Other pieces of gear, the Shadow's chest, Dex Vit, All Res, sockets, and then you have some emeralds in there just for some more DPS. On the gloves, this is also a spot where you could go for CDR. You could do Dex, CDR, critical hit damage, critical hit chance. You can also go for attack speed too. The build will benefit from some attack speed because since you have essentially infinite resource, you just want to get the Impales out there as much as you possibly can. So going for attack speed is a nice bonus wherever you can get it. There's a lot of things that you would like to have, but only limited slots. So you got to take what you can get. And then we'll look at the pants. They're pretty standard. Dex, Vit, All Res, sockets with some emeralds in there. And then the boots, you want Dex, Vit, All Res, and then Impale damage on here as well. Anywhere you can get Impale damage, you would like to have it. The belt that I keep mentioning is the Chain of Shadows, and it's very standard in terms of how I gear it with Dex, Vit, All Res, and life percent. But the important thing here is the power, which after using Impale, Volt costs no resource for 2 seconds. So you can throw out a Volt, and then you can you can throw out an Impale, and then you can get 4 Volts off in a row if you do nothing else for free, and then you have to use Impale again. So that's kind of a pattern that you might get used to if you're trying to just move purely for speed. Throw out Impale, Volt, 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 Impale, Volt, 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 etc. For the other pieces, I have a Hellfire Amulet. This one's not that great, but it would look something like this, like a lightning percent for damage, and then maybe like crit hit chance, crit hit damage. Just a purely offensive Hellfire Amulet with a good passive. We have Ambush on this one, which is a nice one for this build because it's allowing you, again, like you have that 40,000% additional damage for Impale to the first target that you hit. So that combined with Ambush, which if you don't know what Ambush does, it makes it so that you deal 40% additional damage to enemies above 75% health. So you're just really chunking out enemies that are at nearly full health with this combined with that 6-piece bonus. So it's a really nice passive to have. If you don't get it on your Hellfire, I definitely recommend picking it up in your other passives. And then we can look at our bracers. We have the Nemesis bracers. Like I mentioned, we want to get more elites. We're all about killing elites with this build. So you're going from pylons and shrines, getting some elites popped with this. And it's going to be very standard lightning damage, elemental percent there, Dex Vit, critical hit chance. And I mentioned it's a focus and restraint build. So if you can get some focuses and some restraints, foci maybe, I don't know, that can roll like this, because Essentially, ideally, you would want to have all your pieces ancient and all of them augmented so that you can start to roll decks off of certain pieces because you can just get it back with your augments and higher Paragon level. But if you can get some cooldown reduction, then it makes things really easy. Then you don't have to worry about getting it on like your quiver or your weapon. But we can actually look at both of these now. So like I mentioned, the Holy Point shot, that is what's kind of helping the Shadow set come to prominence in Season 10 for Demon Hunters. It's giving you a little bit more AoE because now Impale will throw 2 additional knives as the legendary power on this Holy Point shot quiver. So that makes Impale super awesome. For the skills, or for the primaries on here, I went with lightning skills, you know, more elemental damage in the build, dex vit, attack speed, and critical hit chance. If you don't need the vit, you can roll that off and go with impale damage here. That would be nice. Maybe if you need another CDR roll, you can use it here, so your quiver can be a little more versatile for you. And then on the weapon, Carly's Point, I was mentioning one of the things that also brings you some more resource back is that Impale returns 10 to 15, that's the range on that power, hatred, if it hits an enemy that's already impaled. In T13, you're killing a lot of enemies in 1 to 2 shots, so you're not always benefiting from this power, which is why we use Seethe. That's why we can also get some hatred back with our generator, and we can also get some hatred back with the Blood Vengeance passive, like I was mentioning. So there's a lot of ways for you to make sure that you always have the resource to do impales, but this is also another one of those too. And ideally, you would like an Ancient Carly's Point with a % damage roll. I should roll this to 10% eventually. Some dexterity on there, and then increase attack speed. Attack speed is really nice to have on your weapon because it is multiplicative there. So having attack speed on your dagger will help you get more impales out. It's very nice. Very nice to have. And then the legendary gems, like I mentioned, we have a Bane of the Trapped, one of your most powerful DPS gems. You're right in the middle of all the enemies as you vault in, so you'll always have this active pretty much. It's very nice. Gets some damage against control impaired enemies, and then the secondary, like I mentioned, will proc the gem itself. So even though we do have shadow power doing some slows, the gem itself will also slow after level 25. On the other ring here, we have the Bane of the Powerful. Again, the build is all about killing elites, so this is the Elite Killer Gem. You gain 20% increased damage for a certain amount of seconds based on the rank of the gem after killing an elite pack, and then you also gain 15% increased damage versus elites, and you take 15% reduced damage, which that part we don't really care that much about with the Goldwrap working for us. And then, of course, Boon of the Hoarder, like I mentioned, to get that gold consistently coming in. You want this at the highest level possible so that you can guarantee that chance of enemies dropping gold after you kill them. And even a nice bonus here is that the 25 rank unlock gives you increased movement speed, 30% for 2 seconds after picking up gold. So that's pretty much always active too. And with your speed farming, movement speed is king. So you want that. And then just to continue to review, we did have the Dawn in the cube. In the armor slot, we have the Goldwrap. Like I mentioned, on gold pickup, you gain some armor for 5 seconds equal to the amount picked up. And you can continue to refresh that as you get more and more gold. So you can end up with like billions of toughness if you open your character sheet while you're doing a rift. It's pretty awesome to look at. And then the Avarice Band, like I mentioned, whenever you pick up gold, you increase your gold and health pickup radius by 1 yard for 10 seconds, stacking up to 30 times, and you continue to refresh that as well as you get more and more gold throughout the rift. So that is pretty much the gist of it. It is a very efficient, speedy T13 speed farmer. You're going to want this set up as soon as you can get into the season and as soon as you can get your shadow set together. I don't know if you'll be in T13 right away, but it is very powerful, as you can tell. You'll be able to crush through your T11s, work your way up to T12 and T13 as your gear gets better. We can quickly talk about Paragon priorities. In the core tab, you're going to want to max out movement speed. Like I mentioned, on your boots, you're going to want the impale damage there, so you don't really want any movement speed. So you want to max it out here in your core, 25%, and then just dump the rest into dexterity. In offense, you want to prioritize cooldown reduction first so you can get to that 37% threshold for the permanent uptime on Vengeance. And then I might go, based on what your gear looks like, maybe attack speed, maybe critical hit damage. so you can make harder hits or maybe critical hit chance if your critical hit chance is a little bit lower than it should be. So you can kind of pick, but attack speed will be very good for you as well too. Defense, I would go all res, and then armor, and then maybe life percent, then life regen. Again, with the Goldwrap version, you're not really going to care too much about your defense, but for those instances maybe where you're not having some gold on you, you could survive some hits based on this defense tab. And then last but not least, area damage is really nice because this build is more single target oriented, even with the Holy Point shot power. So having some area damage to spread out the effects is kind of nice. Then you might want to go, I don't know, maybe gold find. The rest of these don't matter all that much. Resource cost reduction can be nice, but like I mentioned, you have so many ways to top off your resources. You're not too concerned about reducing the cost. And then life per hit is potentially nice, but again, you shouldn't be taking nearly any damage, and you get life per hit on shadow power, so you're not really too concerned. So yeah, maybe some gold find, maybe you prioritize that. But that's pretty much it for the guide. I hope you guys really enjoy this. I hope you will give it a shot. Let me know, hop down in the comments section, and if you do try the build, let me know how it works out for you. Let me know how you would change it. If you like the video, give it a little thumbs up. And there's also some variants too. If you don't want to go with focus and restraint, then you can go with a Stone of Jordan, and then maybe wear an Avarice Band. And then in your cube, instead of going with an Avarice Band, you could go with a Ring of Royal Grandeur, and then that way you can sub out a piece, maybe put on the Gloves of Worship, and then all your shrine effects will last for a long time. There's a lot of variability that you can do with the build. Then you would sub out your generator, maybe use Marked for Death or something like that. So lots of ways to do it. Give it a shot, experiment. Shadows is here. It's gonna be awesome. We can finally destroy all the things being a ninja. So I hope you enjoy, and I'll be seeing you next time. Peace.